Canada this week, saying it should be grateful to Washington a day after its Prime Minister warned of a rupture to the US-led global system. In a rousing address to delegates at Davos, Mark Carney expressed his country's desire to forge new alliances with like-minded nations as it navigates a tricky relationship with the Trump administration. Let's hear a little of what the two leaders have been saying.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't.
We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Well, for more, let's cross live now to Ottawa to speak with our correspondent there, Christopher Guly. Great power rivalry, as Mark Carney there. Donald Trump is not too pleased at all with his comments. Europe and Canada, they do appear recently to be closing ranks against this threat that's looming from Washington. Christopher, what do you think Mark Carney's end goal is here?
Well, he obviously telegraphed what Mr. Trump was about to say today, that the international rules-based order, where the might are intended to make right, only make right when it's in their interest. It was a remarkable speech by a Canadian Prime Minister. In Canada, I mean, the talk is we have to go back almost 80 years to a previous future Liberal Prime Minister, Louis Saint-Laurent, who was External Affairs Minister, the equivalent of a Foreign Affairs Minister at the time, who in 1947 laid out a post-war international rules-based strategy for Canada. And that's exactly what Mark Carney did within the reality of the U.S. We're now into year two of the Trump administration, and the previous year, it's been threat after threat, tariffs and 51st state. So Mr. Carney has just articulated what he has been doing also over the past year. Over the last month, he's been to China, Qatar. He's now in Davos, well, less than a month, and reaching out to countries around the world to ensure that middle powers are at, as he said at his speech yesterday in Davos, are at the table. Otherwise, they're on the menu.
And Christopher, there must be some relief there in Canada this evening, as there is surely in many European capitals tonight, hearing Donald Trump saying that some kind of a deal is nearing for Greenland. We spoke last night about the concerns that people have there over Trump's ambitions for the Arctic island. Has there been much reaction there as of yet as to his latest comments?
Well, the comment just came out a few minutes ago, but I can tell you that it also talks about an Arctic strategy, and that is going to raise concerns in Canada. As I mentioned to you a couple of days ago, that Greenland positioning by the U.S. creates that pincer effect for Canada. So on the Atlantic side, you've got, if the U.S. acquires Greenland in however way it does, if it ever does, and then you've got Alaska on the western side. So you've got this pincer effect, and I think that Canada would like to pull together some of the Arctic countries of the Arctic Council, perhaps excluding the United States and Russia, and have a meeting of minds and saying and reaching some sort of an agreement as to how to deal with this threat. Because it's now not just Greenland. He's now talking about Arctic security.
And do you get any impression that he's going to make more of an effort? There might be a war of words ongoing this week between Mark Carney and Donald Trump. But do you think that, given the situation now in Greenland, that he might try to reconcile perhaps his relationship with Washington over the course of the next year or so?
Oh, I think that Mark Carney is smart enough to know that he always has to reach out to Donald Trump. I mean, Canada and the U.S. they have the longest undefended border, undefended so far, in the world. The U.S. is Canada's largest trading partner. It's significant for the United States. So obviously, Mark Carney and Donald Trump will have to get along. We'll see where the Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade agreement goes. Donald Trump has already signaled that, as it's known in Canada, CUSMA, the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement, is not important to him. He says it's more important to Canada. So as a result of that rhetoric, whether it turns into reality, the Carney government is now pursuing other trade partners globally and hoping that, CUSMA, the USMCA, as it's known south of the border, will survive.
Christopher, thanks so much for coming to us with that update, all that information as well. It's very interesting to get the view from Canada. That's our correspondent there, Christopher Guly, joining us live from Ottawa.